Justin.
I'm Maurice, and you're listening to Category Is. Like leading this whole movement to get, I think it's Ridley. Is it Ridley?
The director.
Yeah. Is it John Ridley?
John Ridley? No, it's not John Ridley. Hold on.
Well, somebody from that movie was leading this whole kind of movement to say that
Steve McQueen.
Not Steve
The
McQueen.
director?
It wasn't.
Okay.
Then it wasn't director. So anyway, he was saying that.
Oh, John Ridley.
Yeah, John Ridley. What was his title?
Producer.
Producer.
He was the writer. He wrote it. He wrote it and produced.
Okay. So he said that the depictions of slavery in Gone with the Wind were problematic. But I'm like, you did a slave movie too. So is it my slave movie is better than your slave movie? And
good point.
Take theirs down and leave mine up.
No. Gone with the Wind had better fashions.
Gone with the Wind was it was an epic movie. It was like 4.5 hours long. It was based on a book by Margaret Mitchell. In 1939 was when the movie came out.
Hattie McDaniel was the first Black woman to win an Oscar.
Yeah, Hattie McDaniel was the first Black woman to win an Oscar for that role. But it didn't have anywhere near the graphic nature of slavery that 12 Years a Slave had. John Ridley was saying that they were kind of romanticizing the role of the slave. And I'm like,
But I think it's just to understand that things happen in context, in historical context. In that time, such grotesque nudity and such grotesque violence would not be permissible on the screen. So the film is reflective of the time in which it exists. And I feel like it's art and it should be protected. And I think that, everything exists in the context and the framework of the time in which it's created. People are not going to look that kindly on his film in a smooth 4 years, let alone 80.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're kind of getting in this generation that is a little bit too, dare I say, sensitive and can't seem to delineate their own personal triggers or ideology and place them in a historical context and look at things objectively. Everything's very, very subjective. And I think that is dangerous. I mean, I watched Gone with the Wind once. I'll probably never watch it again, but I think it's an important film, and that the film, not only for cinema. Wait, what do I say?
You are drunk. Yeah.
But from a cinematic perspective, but also from a historical perspective, and we can't censor our history or erase just because it's not appropriate today, or it's not how we view the world should be today. I just totally disagree with that. Why pull it down? For what?
Well, they pulling down them statues everywhere too.
which I also disagree with, because I look at it like this. Go ahead, give your point.
No, go ahead.
I feel like, yes, there's lots of statues of people who were, explorers, but were really colonizers, slave traders, rapers, pillagers, who committed lots of genocide. I get that. But at the time in which those statues were erected or made, it was to honor them and how we view people at that time. But sometimes history is not as kind, because we grow, we learn as a culture, as a society, and a collective, as we should. However, I think that, when you put someone cast in iron up as a statue like Frank Rizzo, who was a known racist, or like a Christopher Columbus, that it reveres them and it exalts them on a literal pedestal and says that they're worthy of this public recognition and honor. But I think that also taking down the statues is dangerous, because it negates the fact that our perceptions and views to people, it's basically cancellation culture, because it negates the fact that our perceptions and views about people can change, but that doesn't erase the fact that they existed, and that if we don't have a public reminder of these people who did bad things, and we as a public can recognize consciously that they're not to be celebrated. But it also reminds us not to repeat those mistakes. If we take down these statues, how are we going to remember Christopher Columbus? I don't think he should have a holiday, but I don't think the statue should be torn down either. Some people have said put them in museums, but no one wants to go to the Museum of Hate. So what's that going to do?
No.
Leave them and start erecting statues of other people who we believe should be honored. But I just don't agree with the pulling down of the statues. To me, it seems again like erasure. Our history is not great, but that doesn't mean that you just take out all the bad parts, because you're going to be bound to repeat them if you do.
Yeah, I think it's a tough topic because history is important, and if we don't know the history, then you're doomed to repeat it. And I think in the times of these people, Christopher Columbus was an explorer. He was paid to find the quickest route he could to India. He ended up somewhere he didn't know where he was going. But subsequently, all the stuff that happened after that, yes, that is terrible and that is bad. But it almost seems that we're very selective in what we want to tear down, or what they want to tear down. I ain't tearing down nothing. But,
right.
So obvious targets are Christopher Columbus, the Confederate statues that they're tearing down.
Robert E. Lee.
Yeah, but what are we going to do about George Washington? Are y'all storming Mount Vernon like that? Because he owned a lot of slaves. His wife owned even more.
Like y'all gonna stop spending $5 bills? No. Who's Jefferson? No, that's Lincoln. I don't know the girl. I don't know money.
20. And we know what Thomas Jefferson was doing with his slaves, with all them.
Sally girl.
Hemings, yeah. And so then, I just don't know where it stops. I think, personally, still I'm from the South, and yeah, South Carolina was part of the Confederacy, where the Civil War started at Fort Sumter outside of Charleston. There's a history in that. And I went to college on a plantation. Like, my college campus was a legit actual plantation. Like, the big house was still there. I never went in because there was like a urban legend that if you went inside, you wouldn't graduate. So I just never went outside. Never went inside. And then they actually have one of the slave quarters, like right in the middle of campus.
Is it really an urban legend or is it a plantation legend? Sorry.
But what do we do in that instance where that college wouldn't exist if it was not a plantation first, and just like where does it kind of stop? And like looking at the history of things, we do have to kind of look critically and really learn the lessons from the past, and kind of move forward,
right,
as a people. It's just it's tough because I know right now people are angry and upset, and we do have this cancel culture where it's like, get rid of everything, and it kind of doesn't really work that way.
Right.